change in the fundraising sector has never been greater. But innovations in technology are evolving faster than our ability to understand them. Are these advances good or bad? Do they have unintended consequences? And what is the application to the global fundraising sector? That's what we're here to find out. Welcome to the Fundraising AI podcast, your up-to-date resource for responsible AI for the global fundraising community, hosted by Nathan Chappell and Scott Rosenkrantz.
Hello and welcome everyone to a new episode of the Fundraising AI podcast. I am here, Scott Rosenkrantz, here with partners of ours. We have Ben Miller, Senior Vice President and Data Science at Bonterra, and Tanuja Korlepra, Chief Technology Officer at Bonterra. Bonterra has been a great partner of Fundraising AI and staying with us with the Fundraising AI framework. Ben's been a key voice in that, how we make sure that we're always speaking to the nonprofit sector and responsible and beneficial AI and what that means and how that evolves. And so I'm so excited to have them both here to talk about what they're doing, what they're seeing, and where this field's going to go. A lot of exciting stuff coming up, and we just always want to make sure that we're keeping up to date on it and having our listeners know where the space is going. So Ben, Tanuja, I'm so excited to have you. If you wouldn't mind getting started, maybe Ben, just do a little bit of introduction on how you got to this space and what your role is at Bonterra.
Thank you, Scott, and always a pleasure to be in your company. So I, as you said, I'm SVP of Data Science at Bonterra. I came to the fundraising sector, honestly, the same way we all did. We fell into it, right? And I have been spending my years trying to help fundraising analytics and help move the fundraising world in a more numerate way. I've been a former past chair of the Fundraising Effectiveness Project, board of Giving USA, and an ambassador to Fundraising AI. So try to be involved in the sector and try to give back and make the place better than I left it, than I got it. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Tanuja, do you mind doing an introduction just so everybody knows who you are?
Of course. Thank you for having us, Scott. Great pleasure to be here with you on the podcast. My name is Tanuja Korlepra. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Bonterra. I've been at Bonterra for about 19 months now. And my background primarily is on the big tech side. I have worked for many, many years on large-scale systems, on data protection and data recovery. I also worked at AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, and Microsoft Azure, really large-scale services for high-performance computing, AI, and storage. That's really, really fun. My job before I was at Bonterra was at a company called USA Facts, which is a civic data initiative to collect government data and provide insights at scale. I really enjoyed being in the space of impact, and Bonterra for me is a great privilege because this is a place where we can put cutting-edge tech with real impact on real people's lives. It's really rewarding and really motivating and inspiring. And I get to work with some really amazing people in the space like Ben and others. So it's been really fun.
I've had the pleasure of working with Ben for a while on a number of different projects. And likewise, getting to talk to both of you is very exciting. And I think you have unique perspectives, both from where you're coming from and then being able to meet in the middle. And that's a great depiction of what Bonterra is. So for any of those that might not be as familiar with Bonterra, I know you've been in the space for a long time in terms of various products. Tanuja, could you just give like a brief overview of maybe the history and where you see Bonterra serving nonprofits of different shapes, sizes, and needs?
Yeah. So Bonterra, we call ourselves a social good tech company. And what we want to do is empower the doers of good. So Bonterra, we have a large number of products that we build and support and innovate on. We have a lot of products where we help nonprofits be empowered to do more, and fundraising and engagement and donation campaigns and email campaigns. There's a lot of technology we built to empower fundraisers. Nonprofits do what they do best to serve our communities. And not just that, we are also serving our customers on the corporate social philanthropy side because we build a lot of products for our corporate philanthropy. We also have a very large set of functionality on the case management and the case and social impact side, and then some more on the political side. So overall, we have a broad portfolio in the social good sector, and that makes us very unique because not only do we have very detailed and in-depth understanding of one sector. We have a very detailed and in-depth understanding of the entire social good ecosystem. And our job as a technology company to be there in the middle, connecting the dots, connecting the ones who want to donate and do good in the community by volunteering and providing resources to organizations that want to do good in the community and are looking for support and funds. So we sit in this unique position where we can connect the dots and be the connective tissue in our ecosystem and create this ecosystem and the flywheel of trust that empowers more giving, more doing good. And that's what we see our job as technologists. We want to bring the best technology and the best capability and put it in our hands of our customers to help them do more.
Trust is such a key part of what we do here, and being able to address each nonprofit as a unique entity, right? There are 1.8 million nonprofits in the US, but no two of them are the same in terms of their mission or their size or their location. So having these different services that all kind of wrap your arms around anything that an organization could need to just further themselves, that's such a unique opportunity and exciting to be able to see the good that you can make through them. Ben, you've been in the sector for a long time, right? You've always been at the forefront of technology, your computer science background. When did you first start thinking about AI as a tool, as it could relate to nonprofits? And how have you seen that evolve over the past, 5, 10, 15 years?
Yeah, I'm going to harken back to the early 2000s, where I remember sitting in a meeting at a large nonprofit, and a technology vendor at the time was talking about capacity, and we've got these predictive models, and that was my specialty. That was my background. It's I know how to do predictive models, and I was young at the time, so I didn't want to challenge. So, but I hear the conversation go, and they say, "Oh, look at how much capacity you have," and they had this one person up there, and they said, "Oh my, you have $1 billion available to you, right?" And everyone in the room kind of looked at each other and was like, I don't know about this. And I asked a couple probing questions, what do you mean there's $1 billion, available? Because at the time, lottery tickets never got up to $1 billion. $1 billion was a number we could never imagine, right? But now there's too many billionaires. But regardless, it turns out Charles Schwab had attended a dinner event at one time for this event, for this nonprofit, and that had been flagged through wealth scoring. And so at the time, it's just indicative of how the nonprofits were predictive modeling, schmidictive modeling, we don't need this. We've got our tried and true technology. And so early on, I was exploring the ways to look, there is stuff you could use to help get better. And so I think you asked, how have I seen it evolve over time? So then predictive modeling really became pretty prevalent in this sector. But it really focused more on acquisition. People were not really using it for the house modeling, even though I saw that as a real opportunity. And so we started building the donor trends models back in 2010, which were using AI, genetic modeling, and genetic algorithms to come up with better ways to predict likelihood and not just capacity, but propensity to give. And things started to change, but it was a real hard struggle. But then, we all are familiar with, was it 2022 when ChatGPT got released, and it has completely changed the conversation. And so where I was struggling to get people to focus on, hey, I've got this really cool predictive model that you could use. It could leverage, and you could get 40% increase in, fundraising, and it's okay. Now everyone's sort of using it without any regard to what it, and so the whole sector, the whole world has changed their view on AI. And so it's in everything we do. Google uses it in search. We use it in Netflix when you're trying to pick your best movie. I mean, we are so familiar with it, whether we call it AI or not. It has made it a lot easier to unlock within the nonprofit sector. So I think it has come strides from where I saw it start many years ago.
Yeah, you and I could probably have a whole podcast episode on this, but also having started in the predictive modeling space, I feel like predictive modeling from the commonplace understanding almost got leaped over, right? Because all the focus went to AI, and now there's still a lot of uncertainty about what predictive is. And I hear RFMs being referred to as predictive model, which by definition, they are not, right? So it just kind of gets thrown into this word salad of, hey, look at all these cool things that we're doing, and AI and agentic and predictive. Well, are you really, right? And so being able to talk to people that are actually using this and see where it can be applied and not be applied, and how does it impact organizations, That's where I think so much as education needs to be, just to demystify it, right? It's easy to get kind of caught up in the excitement. And Tanuja, having been in the for-profit space for a while, on the leading the tech, like how do you see this excitement compared to anxiety, right? Like how do people just kind of stay grounded with everything that's going on and moving around them and moving so fast?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say it's not something that is particular to the social good sector or the nonprofit space. It actually is across the board. We've seen a lot of technology evolutions in our careers, right? Like we saw the cloud evolution, we saw the AI evolution. I think what has happened with AI is the pace of change has been so fast. I guarantee almost everybody has the FOMO of they're missing out on something. There is every day, there is some innovation happening. Like if you feel like you are struggling with something and AI is not able to meet your need at this point, it's a very high chance that next week it will be solved. So that has been the pace of innovation. So it's very natural for people to feel anxious and not to know where to get started. And this is particularly true for our customers. What we see is they often are running with such small teams and they're doing so much with a very small team that they don't have capacity to stop what they're doing and let's go explore what's happening in terms of innovation and tech and AI, what's coming and what should we use, where should we start. So it's very natural to feel anxious, especially when you know that there is a lot at stake. Right. And then the things that they just can't drop. There are things that they do every day. Like our customers like food banks, they have to continue to operate their services. They can't take a break to learn something new. So anxiety is like normal. We work with our customers every day on making sure that we are giving them the right information and the right support to understand where to start. One thing that we often tell our customers is, look, there is a lot happening. At the same time, there is a lot of news. Lots of influencers are talking about AI on a daily basis. It's fine to feel a little bit of FOMO and anxiety. What I tell everyone is to ground yourself in your own reality. And what that means is, what are the things you want to do at your work, in your personal life? What are the outcomes you want to drive? Where do you feel like you're doing just a lot of manual work that you would love for AI or some knowledge worker to do, and start from there. Identify your use case, identify the problem statement, and then go explore who are the vendors who are playing in the space. Do they meet your standards of ethical AI and governance and sustainability? Once you've vetted them, once you feel comfortable working with them, like try a few demos, try a few things, and see where that lands. And if it does solve your problem and the use case, then get excited about, okay, what else, rather than overwhelming yourself with just trying to consume a lot of information at the same time. I always recommend start with your particular use case that matters to you and then go explore more.
Yeah, I've been talking about death by 1,000 use cases a lot lately, right? Like there's no shortage of what AI can do. It can do anything and everything, right? And I'm thinking about AI every day and I still feel FOMO. I still feel like I'm not catching up. Like I don't have a full grasp on everything that can be done. Like when, Claudebot came out or Replit or any of these apps, like I'm thinking I need to build an app. Well, do I? Like what app do I need to build, right? And so instead of focusing on like what is possible, more like what is necessary, right? What do I need to do? And I love how you said it, like just stay grounded to your own reality, right? What's challenging you? What's getting in your way, right? What takes up your time that you just don't want to do? Like, is that a potential use case? So let's take a step back, but focus in on that. And Ben, if you could just do us a favor, like because AI is anything and everything, right? Can you just break down the difference between kind of the big three these days, like the predictive, the generative, and the agentic? How do they differ and what use cases do each one of them address?
Question. And before I start, I want to spark in some ideas and thoughts, and I'm going to just go ahead and share them. And so like one of those ideas and thoughts is this, that like it's always been and will always be about value. What value can I get out of a tool or a product? And that's the only way something sticks, right? And we didn't talk about it before. We used to say, like, we would not say AI in our marketing message. It scared folks. Now you can't get away from AI, right? Like it just is everywhere. So, but in the end of the day, if you're not getting value out of it, you will not find it useful. But to answer your specific question, predictive model, generative AI, the difference between the two of those things. So generative AI does use some predictive modeling to predict the next word, but what it also has, it introduces a probabilistic mechanism inside of it to predict so that the next word is not always going to be predicted the same way, so that it can be a little bit of creative, right? Traditional predictive models are things that were invented 250 years ago when they were trying to measure the way that the moon was moving through the sky. And Gauss came up with a regression model that, he was able to determine the celestial orbits and that type of thing, right? So that math is old. Okay, it's really old. Now it's been iterative and it's been used. And then came in these neural networks. And when that first came onto the scene, people were like, I don't know what to do. It was kind of like, but it was meant to mimic the brain, right? And it kind of stagnated for a little while until Google came out with this transformer and the 2018. And that's where the current GPT, the transformer is the T in the GPT. And that was able to figure out how to make the predicting of the next word really, really relevant. And so that's where you see generative AI. And it's not just words now, like you have images as well, where you're basically taking a set of data and training a model. And here it is. It does have to go through a hidden layer, which is what neural networks do, in order to then come out to produce that next word and generate an image, generate words. And I'm sorry, Scott, but you had a third category in there as well. What did I miss there?
Agentic.
Agentic. Oh, yeah. So an agentic is, I'm sorry.
How could we forget
make
agentic?
Everyone else more confused, right? Agentic just means that the model is actually performing something. It's doing a task. It's not just predicting, but it is acting. It has agency. It is acting upon what could be within a set of boundaries, and it should be within a set of guardrails. But when you actually can write an email and send it out to a population that you already have selected, and you as a human can review what was done, but the AI is able to select and do and execute on that action. Yeah. So it is like the culmination. It is the best. It's like the greatest. And we're talking about value. That's where you can start to see real big value come out.
And a lot of what we're seeing, and you're probably seeing the same, and I think it's not a nonprofit specific issue. I think even the for-profits are doing this. Or just like AI is the buzzword, and if you don't have AI in your offerings or you aren't talking about AI, you're falling behind from a vendor space. Agentic is the new thing, right? Everyone's talking about agentic, but a lot of times agentic is just automation wrapped up in a prettier package, right? So like the difference between automation, and I'll walk through this, but jump in if you think I'm missing anything. Automation is very clear, distinct, rule-based decision, not even decision-making, but like execution, right? If this, then this, if this, then this. It doesn't deviate. It always follows the same pattern, whereas agentic is similar, but it has room to make its own decisions on what to do, right? Room to create its own content, there should be guardrails applied, and it still follows some rules, but it's a little bit more open-ended. Like if I asked you to go on a website and order something, and I gave it a little instruction like that, or if I gave you a set of specific rules like do this and then this and then this and then click on this button and then put this in your shopping, like you're still getting to the end thing, but do you have autonomy and being able to, or agency and making your own decision to get there? So is that like a clear way of talking about it? I know it gets confusing for a lot of people out there because it is so new and complex.
I've had some really serious conversations with some of the other folks on our team. I mean, whether or not a thermostat could be considered an agentic AI system, and I had a lot of arguments that it could, but it is very deterministic, which is your point, right? Like there is no probabilistic nature of it, right? And to me, that's the difference between sort of automation and agency, and agentic. And I think there is use case for both, right? There are some times where all you do need to do is automate because it is a very deterministic pathway. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And sometimes probabilistic nature, creativity is important. It helps to make improvements. It helps to see outside of what you might normally have seen. So there's use cases and value in both. But I think I agree with you 100%.
So with all these capabilities of AI, Tanuja, let's walk through what Bonterra is doing with Q. Like what led to the decision of creating Q? What is it? And how does it interface with clients and what are you seeing?
Yeah, as I was saying, one thing that sets us apart from other companies in this space is we try to understand our customers really deeply. And one thing we were very clear about from the very beginning is we don't want to do AI for the sake of AI. And that a lot of companies do, like, oh my God, if I'm not launching agentic AI products, I'm behind. That is correct. That is true. But for us, the real deal was let's do something that helps our customers. As I was saying earlier, we take great responsibility that we get to work in this space. And what we want to do is make sure as technologists, we are bridging the gap between technology, capabilities, innovation, and solving real customer problems. We obsess about our customers. We want to make sure that they have the best technology and tools possible. So the motivation really came from there. And one other fun story about Bonterra, we have this coach named Kimberly. She's amazing. We all love Kimberly. Kimberly would help customers walk through the steps, one step at a time. She would be on the phone with them, coaching them. So she's their coach. She helps them build fundraising campaigns or drive donation campaigns. And that's awesome. She's amazing. But she's one person, right? Not everyone can have Kimberly on the phone at the same time. So a fun quote we had internally was, can we clone Kimberly using Agentic AI, right? That could be a great thing. So our very first iteration of something, and this is last year this time, was a project named Lucy that came out of a hackathon project. And that's why, like around December, January timeframe, we started playing with agentic AI tools. And very quickly, we realized over the holidays, 2024, we realized that, hey, there's this powerful way of doing things and solving problems, both internally and for our customers. So we pivoted very quickly to agentic AI-based development, where we started writing a lot of code using AI with guardrails and human in the loop, obviously. And then we realized there is a lot of opportunity here to give the same amazing capability to customers. We were loving it. We were loving being more productive and trying to have more done in a short amount of time. And we said, how about we give the same thing to our customers too? And we very clearly knew that our customers love having some support and having us be there with them through their fundraising journey and their campaigns, etc. So we said, can we clone Kimberly? And we started this, we had this hackathon project called Lucy. That was our very first iteration of trying to do something like this. And we all loved the idea so much. And we kind of like tossed it around with a few customers and said, would you like something where there is a very intelligent AI coach? Not agent, doesn't matter what technology is used underneath. A coach that sits with you and guides you and walks you through steps, and it's very intelligent because it understands the context. It understands you as a nonprofit. It understands what your background is. And it also knows everything about this space. And they were like, yeah, that would be amazing. So we played around with the idea a little bit, and that's how Q was born. So Q is an intelligent coach that can interact with our customers and walk them through various strategies for what they want to do on that particular day. And one way we look at Q is it's one place to go for our customers. We have many guardrails. It's warm, it's pleasant, it's a very friendly coach. And we are continuously adding more and more capabilities and skills to our Q. And that will help Q do more for our customers. And that's really where the idea came from. It was very organic, really rooted in where's technology going, what do our customers want, what they really are struggling with. This is a space where we really love taking care of our customers. We deeply care about them. So giving them something like Q that helps us scale our capabilities of taking care of our customers and gives them something at their fingertips 24/7. And that was the idea. As I was saying before, a lot of nonprofits do not have a big staff. You would see nonprofits with 3 people wearing multiple hats. They could be director of fundraising, there could be proofreader, they could be their internal copyright person or the copywriter, or they could be fundraising, they could be exploring new opportunities, researching where to help in the community. They do a lot by themselves. And there are larger nonprofits that are well funded, so might have a larger team, may have a technical team internally. What we wanted to do was, can we level the playing field a little bit here using tech? So once you build these technologies that can be force multipliers for our customers and do more for them, we really felt like this could be a worthy problem to solve. And that's where it all started from. So right now it has many capabilities that our customers love, and it's empowering them to do more. And there is a very healthy roadmap, and it's all driven by customer needs. Every time our customers come to Q and say, hey, can you do this for me? And if it's not there yet, we're like, roadmap item, because that's how we are learning iteratively to say, what are they asking for on a regular basis? And can we build that into a new skill using Agentic AI? So it's been a really, really fun experience and journey that we have taken over the last few months getting it to this point. And there's just a lot more we can do.
I love the approach because you're not just going in again like, here's what AI can do, so let's just offer you whatever. But you're taking a model of a human that has been able to like partner with organizations, like see success, see that collaboration in like a very caring and compassionate way. But humans are not scalable, right? Mm-hmm. There's no way that she has time for every single customer that you're working with. And like you said, nonprofits they don't have enough people to do all the work that needs to be done. And so how can we kind of take technology to meet them where they're at? Right? I often think about, there's a social impact staff retention report that gets updated every year. The nonprofiteers do it. And I don't have the numbers correctly, but it's something crazy. Like 70% of nonprofit employees are thinking about leaving their job in the next 12 months, right? Many of which are planning on not coming back to the nonprofit sector. And the number one reason is overworked and under-resourced. And so if you're already partnering with them through your tools and you just go the extra mile of saying like, hey, how can we make sure that we're doing our best for you? The technology lets you do that, right? Whether it's AI or automation, whatever it is, like it lets you do that. So why not meet them there?
Exactly.
Right? Why not like just partner with them and offer your services in the best way that allow them to focus on the impact that they're making?
Exactly. They're doing so much heavy lifting in the communities. And we feel like if we can do the heavy lifting on the technology and the capability side, we are doing our jobs. And sometimes you will see cases where what Q can give them in terms of insights and guidance, they could not have gotten on their own, even if they were like staring at the data, right? Like, so we do a lot of the analysis, and all of the guidance Q gives to them is really rooted in facts, in data, all of the context we as Bonterra have, having worked in the space for so many decades. We have the context and we know what works and what doesn't work. So Q really understands how to coach them to meet their goals in a most effective way. And that's really hard to do. Even if it's a human coach, they won't have all the context available. Right. And Q can do that. There are lots of capabilities in Q that, even a human can't offer very quickly.
So Ben, from your side of this, what are you hearing from customers who are using this?
Really interesting. We've gotten a lot of great responses, which keeps us energized and ready to go, right? Like when you start to see something you build out there in the wild and it's getting a great response. I've got one client that said, I can now do donor segmentation in a blink of an eye, right? And it saves us time and money. And by the way, the segment that they pulled raised 43% more money than I did in my prior email. That kind of thing just really ignites the inspiration from the team, the whole team, right? Because wow, look at this. And these are small nonprofits that are seeing these types of huge gains or returns. There's large nonprofits using them as well. But another over here, they said, it's like Q is another team member that they can turn to and review strategies against, right? Oh, here's our current strategies. Here's what we're trying to do. These are our goals. Are these reasonable? What do you think about the steps that we're using? And then you just have a coach there that you can just sort of talk back and forth. Something value I didn't expect was how it can challenge the status quo, like how Q can sort of tell you, think a little differently about it. This is that probabilistic nature that we were talking about earlier, right? Where creativity can be injected. And this is an area where you want that creativity injected. Where you don't want that creative and generative releases, knowing what your fundraising analytics are. So we tell them, here are your fundraising analytics. This is what you are doing. These are what your retention numbers are. No reason to be probabilistic there. That's what it is. And so we're seeing across the board the empowerment of teams. And, sometimes at first it's a little bit of hesitancy. Let me just test the waters. But, Q can write an email, can pull a donor segment, can create a form, and can tell you every night how you're doing against your peers. If you need to worry about your numbers or if you're doing great, you can kind of sit back and relax. So it's been wonderful to hear the feedback. It's been overwhelmingly positive.
It sounds like I keep coming back to AI is there for a reason. There's so many things that it can do, but there's also so many things that it can't do, right? So if we let AI focus on the decision making, that just frees up our time as humans to focus on the relationship making, right? And I can't think of everything. I mean, I have a written list of all the things I need to do, but I still forget, right? Because I get distracted by stuff and I don't have my coffee first thing in the morning, like all these different things that come into play. But if there's technology that's just allowing me to kind of fall into my typical trap, but also keeping me focused and saying, hey, this is the only thing you need to worry about right now, right? This is the thing, like maybe you should reach out to that person because you haven't spoken to them in a while. Like it just keeps you where you're supposed to be while acknowledging just flaws that we all have as human and make it so easy to, again, like maintain the work day to day when we are feeling so overburdened. I'm sure I could use the services on my own. But I know we're coming up on time for a little bit, but Tanuja, you talk about there's a whole software as a service, and we could go on and on for what that means in the AI era, right? Like how we're seeing that change. But let's talk about outcomes as a service. You talk about that. What does that look like in fundraising? And what do you want nonprofit leaders to know about how to use AI and prepare for it responsibly?
Yeah. Software as a service or SaaS is a term, that's been around for a while. We have multiple companies, billions of dollars in revenue around SaaS, and it's a fine model. However, if you really look at what software as a service is, it's about giving features, capabilities, user experience, and putting that in the hands of customers. And what you generally see with SaaS is every time a SaaS product is developed, it creates more work for the end user. Because yes, there is a new feature or a new capability, but you also need to train someone to use that feature or capability. And eventually it's on the user or the client or the customer to click buttons, create a workflow, monitor the end-to-end process, and make sure it's working. So the focus and the onus was more on how many features can you launch in a week or a given time frame. The whole competitive matrix, if you see for companies, was really around what features each of these products have. Because the competition was always about feature shipping. The greatness of a company was measured by how many features and how many capabilities are you shipping, or how many creative workflows are there, and some were extremely complex that took human effort to learn and execute upon. With Agentic AI, the world is shifting more towards outcome as a service. What it is just an evolution of SaaS from my perspective. Because now what we can do is, rather than focusing on the features and functionalities and the UI of a product, we focus on what can the product do for a customer, right? So if, let's say, there is a food bank and they want to do a targeted outreach to their lapsed donors. What in the past they would have done with SaaS is they would have gone and opened the UI or the workflow and put in their configuration and put in their requirements, and everything would have been manual, SaaS-based approach. Now with outcome as a service, which is really how Q was designed, they can go and say, hey, I need to raise $10,000 for my food bank, and I think that there are some customers who haven't donated in the last 5 months. They did in December. I don't think they have done in the last. And Q will say, okay, great. So your outcome is to raise $10,000 for food bank. And you are hoping there are donors who haven't come back in a while and they would donate. So let me do it for you. It will go ahead and say, I did your donor segmentation. these were the donors, your own donors, who gave in December and haven't since. And there are 142 of those. Would you want to reach out? And the user would like, yeah, of course I would want to reach out. Can you do it for me? And Q would be say yes. These are the categories of the donors. This is how much they gave you. If they all donate again, this is how much you will raise, which meets your target. And I will write this email. Please proofread and hit send. And they're like, okay, great. I proofread it. It looks good. It's warm. It's nice. And they hit send. And within like 10 to 12 minutes, they have done a targeted campaign or targeted outreach to the donors. And then they can track the open rates of the emails. They can see how much they raised. They can assess what was the outcome of this. And so really they went from a desire, an outcome that they wanted to achieve, to actually achieving and tracking, measuring it in 10 minutes, right? Now the thinking has shifted from what software should I buy and what should I click and use to, hey, just do what I want, just do what I'm thinking, right? Like go get the whole thing done. So this is like a very agentic experience, very outcome as a service. So some of the language internally we have shifted is, instead of saying user experience and user interface, we say, what is the agentic experience? What is the agentic interface? Agentic interface is natural language. What is the agentic experience? How easy it is, how intuitive it is. Does it understand the natural language? Can it do back and forth and achieve the outcome eventually? So that is how I feel like the world of SaaS is going to start to shift, and more an outcome-driven model versus a features capability model.
Yeah. Getting away from the shiny ball syndrome, like, look at this cool, exciting thing we could do, but more like, here's a way that we can help you. Here's a challenge that you have. Let us help you with that, right? That makes it so much easier for the end user, because they don't need to think about, oh, how do I use Agentic today, right? Or how do I use Generative? Like, what are my challenges and how can you help me with that? And you're presenting it to them just in natural language, that they don't have to know where the button is. They don't need to know, like, it's just that partner, like that interface, as if a human were offering that to them. Yeah. So, okay, this is the last question. I have to bring it back just because everything we do with fundraising AI is, again, about responsible and beneficial and ethical use of AI in the nonprofit sector. So Ben, being such a valuable member of the framework committee, working with us to make sure that our language is always staying up to terms with the technology as it advances and so on, how does Bonterra think about the responsible use of AI, and what guardrails are just absolute non-negotiables for you in terms of where you can and should or shouldn't be putting this technology?
Extremely proud of the way Bonterra has handled this. And the reason I'm proud is because we took it serious. So early on, we started an AI governance process. And when you talk about responsible AI, it doesn't happen without good governance, right? And we review every 2 weeks. We have a group, a cross-functional team that meets. It's a working group. It meets about every use case that there is in AI, whether it be internal or external. We establish some guardrails. So, okay, client data, anything with client data needs to go through special use case. Executive committee needs to review it and analyze it. Legal team needs to review it. Security team needs to review it. We put together all of this framework, which I understand is bureaucracy, but slowing down and just taking a little bit extra time allows us to flag things. And it has enabled us to move a lot faster now, because now we have a process in place. And so now we have so many ideas coming across. But because we have this process defined, some of it only just needs a quick review, right? Because it's not sensitive. It's not going to be risky. Okay, great. Also, the shifts that have happened over the last several years. So we've had this governance board in place for 2.5 years, right? And so we had buy-in from executive team. We've had buy-in across the company. And we've established, acceptable use policies within Bonterra. And a lot of that work, Scott, came from the work that we did early on in Fundraising AI, right? When we sat down in a room and tried to figure out, like, how do we put guardrails around it? Because we both understood what risks were there and what wrong could happen. And one thing Bonterra values above all else is trust, because trust is the currency. It's how nonprofits raise money. You can't raise money if no one trusts you. You can't do your job. And so we've put out on our front door, here are our ethical guidelines. Here are our framework, how we use it. Here's our legal requirements. Here's our data policy. Look at how we are handling your stuff. And we have HIPAA data. We have very, very sensitive stuff in our data. So If we were not to do this, we would be opening ourselves up to a just huge, just bad. And me, Scott, that's not easy for me to sort of swallow.
Yeah.
But I'm thankful that Bonterra leadership stood right behind that, and we're right alongside me. So I really, really appreciate the stance we've taken.
Well, that's awesome. And I think even in just that, there's something that nonprofits can take away. Like governance is so key to getting started with AI, right? Oftentimes though, like if we think about a computer use policy, right? It's created like once and then probably never reviewed again because computers don't change all that much, right? So like you don't have to worry about keeping up to date with it, right? Governance policies, it's hard to wrap your head around, well, where do I start? Because technology is moving so fast in AI. You need to start, right? You need to start and you need to have those guardrails set in place that are, again, non-negotiables, but also take a step back and review them, reiterate through, a critiquing lens. Like, is that applicable? Is that still necessary? Does it change? Do we need to have them tighter or looser or whatever it is? Like, come up with something, but don't let the perfection be the enemy of progress, right? I love the way that you approach that and the fact that Bonterra is getting behind that to make sure that, again, that partnership and that trust is so key, right? You're doing more than just Bonterra's work. You're doing the work of the organizations that are partnering with you. And so that's a lot of responsibility, but a lot of care that is being associated with that. So I'm so grateful for the time I had with you both. Thank you very much for coming on, for talking with me, and also for just being great partners of Fundraising AI. For those that want to learn more and want to reach out to you, what's the best way to contact each one of you?
You can find me on LinkedIn or ben.miller@bonterratech.com.
Same. I'm on LinkedIn too, and Tanuja.Korlepra at bonterratech.com.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both very much. Everyone who's listening, thank you. As Nathan always says, if you liked it, share it with someone else. If you didn't like it, just keep that to yourself, please. We'll be back next time on another episode of Fundraising AI. Thanks all.
Thanks for having us.